Welcome back to the LSU Rivals YouTube page with Death Valley Insider. I'm Kenny Van Doren, your host, and today we're joined by Adam Friedman, a national recruiting analyst for Rivals.com. Kind of look at the Rivals 250 today and some of these other rankings. I know there were a lot of questions for LSU fans on our forum, looking at guys that got a boost, some guys who dropped a little bit. Before we start, though, Adam, how are you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to finally close the book on this 2024 class and start to focus on these 25s and 26s. But a lot to unpack with this 2024 LSU recruiting class. Some really impressive prospects and guys who I can't wait to watch how they're going to develop at the next level.
And I think there's a good place to start right there. Someone that we've talked about at length, and that's Dominic McKinley.
Yeah.
You told me you were down there at the Under Armour All-American game earlier this month, and I mean, the guy just bulldozed his way through. We know that he's not the most talkative guy in the class. You know, he goes about his business on the field. What just really played into such a boost for Dominic McKinley?
Yeah, I mean, it was that impressive to see what he was able to do there. 6'6", 270. He looks like he's probably like if you just eyeballed him, he looked like probably closer to 240. He carries that 270 really well, and is super powerful, plays with an aggression that was completely unexpected after, talking to him briefly and just kind of seeing his demeanor on the sidelines and with other players. And he goes out there and, he comes off the ball so quickly, uses his hands really well, takes advantage of that natural leverage that he can muster, and I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do at that college level when the strength and conditioning staff are able to get their hands on him, and he's able to take advantage of the full nutrition program at LSU. He's going to be an impressive prospect there.
And for those that don't know his final rankings, he moved up to 12th nationally, first in the state of Louisiana, and second at the defensive tackle position. That's where I kind of want to go there, getting that fifth star, but moving to first in the state. And I know Trades Green was, at the top of the state for a long time. He drops to number 2, but he also got a boost in the Rivals 250 as well. He didn't participate in any all-star event. It looked like he was looking to play in the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, but didn't show up for that. What kind of played into just him getting a boost as well?
Yeah, I mean, he is a special prospect. There's no doubt about it. 6'7", 230. Obviously there's the basketball side that, I mean, he's a standout on the hardwood and had multiple big time offers there, and put up good stats there. He showed off that athleticism on the basketball court, and that obviously carried over to the football field. He had great stats this year. He's one of the best jump ball pass catchers, not just tight ends, pass catchers in this class, and I think he's going to have a great career at LSU. That Brian Kelly offense, has done really well for tight ends over the years. So I think Trades could really excel there. Dropping to number 2 in the state, it wasn't really a drop. It was more of a McKinley moving up so high that he moved over Green, but a position value conversation took place there. Not many tight ends go in the first round. I looked at it today. I don't think there's been a tight end drafted in the first round since, I think, Kyle Pitts in 2001. So there's a lot of a position value conversation that happened there. Brock Bowers is probably going to change that this year, but McKinley, a special prospect. Green, also a special prospect, and I think the sky's the limit for him.
There's still some other guys I want to touch on in the state of Louisiana, but I want to jump over to Texas real quick because Caden Durham has been a huge topic for us. We had Matt Moreno on with us to talk about what he did at the Polynesian Bowl on and off the field, kind of this contagious personality that everyone was enjoying to be around. He got a slight boost as well in the Rivals 250, up to 93 now, 4th at the running back position and stayed at 15th in the state of Texas. What kind of played into how well Caden did down the stretch in the class of 2024?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. He excelled in the All-Star season. He obviously had a fantastic senior season in Texas, and I think you can watch his playing style. You can see his speed, his burst. He's not the biggest guy, 5'10", 180, but there's room to fill out. There's room to watch his game to continue to develop. When he does get to that strength and conditioning program, LSU over the years has churned out running backs. It's certainly a different offense now, but the foundation is there for him to really become a major playmaker at the next level, and I think he'll excel in that LSU offense. Again, prolific guy, has the skill set, and seems to be a player who is pretty far from his ceiling.
And Durham is a guy who took that official visit right before he went to the Polynesian Bowl. Going to enroll during the summer. Another guy that's going to enroll during the summer, moving back to the state of Louisiana, is Kylan Billiott, who at the All American Bowl put up some good film during the practices. He stayed back to finish out his basketball career. Actually, scored his 1,000th point on January 26th. So that's where his kind of focus was when he was staying back. But you said he overpowered defensive backs and proved to be a reliable deep threat when you were evaluating him in San Antonio. What kind of just played more into that push to 211th in the Rivals 250?
Yeah, a high ceiling player, and that's no pun based on his basketball skills. I think he's a guy who is going to be a really good downfield threat, a big, strong receiver who, if he can get off the line cleanly, he'll be a difficult matchup for defensive backs. 6'3", a buck 90, a long reach, a physical player. He's good at routes down the field. He needs to work on some of the finer points and cutting and running some of those more intermediate routes. That's going to make it really difficult for receiver or for defensive backs to stay in his hip pocket. But I think Billiott has a very high ceiling, and that's what led to the boost in the final rankings.
Looking at some of these other guys, you just mentioned like a guy like Travis Green. He didn't really do anything that like prove that he should fall. It's just Dominic McKinley passed him up. A lot of people always ask, why are my team's recruits falling in the ranking? Sometimes has to do with recruits at other schools that are just pushing themselves up based on competition. LSU, some of their guys went down. A lot of them didn't really participate in any all-star events, kind of finished up their respective high school careers in November and December. One guy that did fall, that did play in the All-American Bowl, was Kalash Cobbins. I kind of want to hear what you kind of saw from him. Talking with him, he says, he's at that jack position for the Tigers, the hybrid linebacker, defensive end, going to come off the edge a lot. He didn't really get to do that in the All-American Bowl based on like the safety issues of no blitzing and staying in that 4-3. What did you see from him in San Antonio?
Yeah, I didn't really see a whole lot, and that's kind of the problem there. We were hoping to see a really explosive blitzer off the edge and being able to flow to the ball well, and we didn't see a ton of that, and that's probably because of the scheme that they were playing in. But to be on the safe side for us, we kind of moved him back just a little bit. It seems like he's a little further back in his development process than we originally anticipated, and by no means do we think he's going to have any worse college career than we thought going into the All-Star season. It's just that we think it's going to take a little bit more time for him to get up to speed when he does get to the college level, and that can impact your overall career and then eventually draft status, and which is what we're ultimately judged on when it comes to these rankings.
And another guy that participated in the All-American Bowl practices but didn't get to play in the game was Juwan Johnson. Suffered a concussion on the Thursday in one-on-ones. He's not a guy on the Rivals 250, but he dropped a little bit in the state rankings to 10th. He's 29th at the cornerback position. Evaluating him there, do you think he's maybe a little bit behind? I know he switched positions. He was a quarterback at the high school level. Now he's going to go full-time corner. What did you see from him?
Yeah, I think it was more of just getting a feel for these elite receivers and trying to match up with them as a defensive back when he hasn't had as much experience at the position as some of those other defensive backs. He has tools, 5'11", 180, has long enough arms, I should say, and has a pretty good overall athleticism, I'd say. We saw that on the field his senior year, but I think it's just going to take a little bit more of getting used to that level of competition, understanding how quick he needs to be to react to the ball in the air, and understanding some of the keys to watch for when matching up with these elite receivers.
An offensive lineman that was the only offensive lineman for the Tigers participating in all-star events was Cohen Eccles, a guy maybe a lot of LSU fans don't know much about. Flipped from Texas A&M, decommitted, went on the official visit, and then just announced his commitment on the last day of the early period. He picked up a 4th star, kind of a quiet, boost for him. 61st at the interior offensive guard position, 19th in the or sorry, 61st in the state of Texas, 19th at his position. But for Cohen, it's like the future is at center, is what he's told us. That's what LSU kind of sees him as. He sees himself as a guy who could start his freshman season. I mean, watching him, did you feel like he just kind of played with ease at the center position?
I don't know. I wouldn't say with ease, but you could really see how the skill set he has translates to the center position, even the guard position. I think he could be a standout there as well. He isn't the biggest guy, 6'3", 290 or so, and he does look, sub 300 at this stage in his career. But he plays with an aggressiveness, a quickness. He has strong hands. He does a good job anchoring against pass rush, and he's quick enough to get off the line of scrimmage to land key blocks at the second level. He does a good job cutting off a defensive lineman in pursuit. And I think, when he does make it to the next level and is in the scheme and, is able to really take that coaching, I think he'll be a key part of this LSU offensive line.
Looking deeper at these offensive linemen that Brad Davis brought in for the class of 2024, Weston Davis, 4-star, Ethan Callaway, 4-star, Kyrie Lee Jr., 3-star, Ori Williams, 3-star, a lot of tackles in there, a pretty, full offensive line for the future. What do you kind of make of Brad Davis's ability to recruit these guys?
Yeah, I mean, Brad Davis has always been kind of known as a high-end recruiter and does a good job identifying talented players with the measurables and demeanor to excel at the next level. And I think he's done that again in this class. Ethan Callaway, a smart player with great measurables. Weston Davis, obviously one of those guys who he's in the top 100 in the class. I think he's it kind of speaks for itself there. A really high-end player and someone who I think after he understands the physicality at the next level and the sense of urgency he needs to play with, will be a standout player there. This group is balanced, I think, between tackles and a few interior guys. And I would imagine that after understanding the system, after taking advantage of the strength and conditioning program and starting to get some experience in their first, maybe second year, I think this group could really turn into a solid unit.
This is a more like complex question looking at how the trends have, come and gone for different teams, especially on the LSU side. It feels like the class of 2024 is filled with a lot of guys that flipped. Christopher Jackson coming from Georgia Tech, Ahmad Bros flipping from Duke, Xavier Atkins, although maybe 2 or 3 years ago now was a Mizzou commit at one point, to Blake Baker, and now Blake Baker's at LSU. What do you kind of make of, LSU's ability to recruit down the stretch, kind of giving a lot of these kids time to develop before they really get into the nitty gritty of, recruiting them and making them feel like the top priority?
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to where LSU finds itself in the pecking order among the recruiting powers in college football. These players may commit to other schools earlier in the process, but LSU stays in contact with these guys and makes them feel like they are priorities, but they still want to see more out of them. And as the process goes along and we get closer to the signing period, LSU flexes their muscles and says, okay, it's time to come over. And that's kind of how it ends up happening. And college football powerhouses like LSU do this kind of thing all the time. They're able to flip players later in the process after they've hit developmental marks that the college team is looking for. And that's what we're seeing here with LSU.
One more offensive lineman I totally forgot to mention was Joseph Cryer. I just want to throw that in there. He did move into the top 30 for the state of Louisiana, 3-star guard, someone who's on campus early. That's the last one I just want to mention there. But moving over to special teams, we don't have to talk too much about this, but Aaron Burrell picked up the 3rd-star, still ranked number 3 at the kicker and punter position. I mean, is it just like one of those things where LSU kind of struck gold with the guy in state?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were able to see enough of him to have him land in the top 5 kicker rankings and kicker and punter rankings in the final rankings update, and has become a very important position at LSU. We'll see how things turn out with him when he's able to get on campus and feel comfortable in that environment.
I want to circle back just one last time to what we just talked about with LSU's ability to recruit, especially after a lot of these guys committed. 2 guys were Texas A&M pledges as well. Gabriel Relaford, Dominic McKinley. Talking about Relaford, he moved up a little bit. He has that 4th-star. He's the weak side defensive end position. How big was his commitment just flipping from Texas A&M to the Tigers.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't unexpected. I think he took so many visits to LSU that it was kind of like, okay, this is going to happen. But he is an explosive pass rusher, a guy who has a fairly high ceiling. He is about 6'2", maybe on the shorter side for a defensive end, but he possesses a skill set that makes him a lot to handle for offensive linemen. He gets into that backfield. He does well in pursuit. He's a tough guy at the point of attack, and I think as he's able to really physically mature, he'll continue to trend upwards at the college level.
You answered all of our questions, Adam. Everything from the Rivals 250. When can we kind of expect, an update for the Rivals updates for the class of 2025?
Yeah, we're going to be meeting in the month of February to really hash out some of the updates that we're looking for in the 2025 class and the 2026 class. So you might see something at the end of February, early March. We'll see how quickly we can get our ducks in a row there. There's going to be a lot to unpack in that class and in the 26 class as we move into camp season and the very busy spring season.
I know you've been doing this for a long time, but hearing 2025 and 2026, does it just feel weird to hear those years?
Yeah, it definitely does. I graduated high school in the class of 2011. So yeah, I'm starting to feel old. You can see the gray coming in the beard now. And so yeah, it does feel a little odd. I mean, we're on to some 2027 kids now, and we're hearing a lot about some 2028 kids. So yeah, it's we're getting up there for sure.
Well, Adam, can you let all of our followers know where to find you on social media and also on rivals.com?
Yeah, you can find again on rivals.com. You can absolutely find me there, and you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Rivals Friedman there. And I'll be posting a lot of updates there as we get into camp season here in the East Coast.
And Adam also jumps into our forum sometimes on the quad, and we'll post any updates there along with John Garcia, Adam Gorney. All the guys have you covered on the national front. Thank you guys for joining us today. You can follow Adam on Twitter and read all of his work on rivals.com. We thank you, and we'll see you next time.